Hello, Riversiders. This is the lecture on the immune system, and I'm going to have to go quicker than I did last time because it was too long to be posted. So let's just jump right into sharing my screen with the web page, and boom, here we go. All right. The immune system is fighting off invaders. So the first thing to talk about is the invaders. Um, a pathogen is the vocabulary term for the thing that generates, causes, creates, makes a pathos, an illness. So a pathogen is something that causes you to get sick. There are lots of things that could do this: bacteria, viruses, protists, even something called prions, which are misshapen proteins. So I'm going to talk very briefly about each of these things. Bacteria are extremely small, way smaller than your cells. They're prokaryotes, if you remember back to the cells unit. And they have a cell wall around them. They're living things with cell walls. And that's good news for us because we can have a medicine that targets the cell wall and it'll only hurt the bacteria and not us. That's what antibiotics are. Sounds great. Downside is you're not just you, as I'm sure we've talked at this point of the year. You are not just an animal, you have millions of bacteria living in you and on you. And so taking antibiotics does indeed hurt them, which are normal, natural, healthy microbes that live in and on you. Plus, as we learned with the evolution unit, if you're killing off like millions of these things with an antibiotic, the only one you're providing a stress to the population. The only ones that will survive will be the ones immune to it. And so you're going to create an evolutionary push and cause some evolution. Um, Now, viruses are not considered alive because they aren't made of cells. They're way smaller than any cells, even prokaryotic cells. They're nothing more than DNA or RNA inside of a vessel that can inject it into your cells. And then its DNA gets into your DNA, and you, every time you replicate your DNA, are replicating its DNA, and it uses your cellular functions to do its bidding. So it sort of takes over and inserts its DNA, its code into your code, and then you do what it wants you to do. Um, so they're really impossible to get rid of. Like we haven't figured out how to extricate the viral DNA from the DNA that is us. So if you go to the doctor and they don't, and you with an illness and they don't give you antibiotic, it's probably because they recognize the thing is viral and antibiotics aren't going to do anything to them. There are protists. They're single-celled but much larger. They're little, used to be considered little single-celled animals, and they cause some illnesses. But I mean, when was the last time you heard of someone with amoebic dysentery? Yes, it exists, but very minor cause of illnesses. Then there's something called prions. Prions are misshapen proteins that that when they run into a normal functional protein, they twist it to be the misshapen variety as well. Horrible thing. We haven't figured out a cure for it. And we believe that this is like mad cow disease and maybe Alzheimer's, might be prion disease. Anyways, pathogens can either be spread directly from one organism to another or through a vector. A vector is something that transmits it without being directly. I don't want to keep using the word transmit. So, like, if I bite you and my saliva gets into your blood, and you'll get whatever disease I have. That's directly spread. But if it's a disease that can be spread indirectly, then I could just like cough on my hand and touch a doorknob, and then a little while later you touch a doorknob and you rub your eyes, and boom, now you've got it. Because it can live outside of a host in like a water droplet for some time. In that case, the water droplet would be the vector. Some things like HIV/AIDS or hepatitis need direct transmission. Some things like the common cold or COVID, can be spread indirectly. And so it's important that you know that. If it triggers an immune response, it gets another name. It's called an antigen. It generates or creates an anti-response and fighting response. So most living things have up to 3 lines of defense. Our first line of defense, I think everything has. It is a wall to keep the invaders out. It is a barrier. In our case, it's the skin. In a castle's case, it would be the walls of the castle. Not only does that keep things out, but we need openings in that. I mean, we need openings to get food in and air in and urine and feces out. So we need holes or gaps in the wall, and so we need protectors there. Now, this doesn't matter what the invader is. We have the same sort of protectors at each of these places. So you can think of like tears and snot and hair around the openings, and stomach acid, and all of those things, earwax. Those would be examples of the first line of defense. Keep the barriers to keep it out, and things that protect the holes in that barrier. You could argue clotting is part of the first line of defense as well. So here's some examples of that. If something gets past that first line of defense, don't worry, you have a second line of defense. The second line of defense, it doesn't matter what the invader is again. You're going to mount this second line of defense. And that is flush the thing out, get rid of it. Sneeze, cough, vomit, diarrhea, swelling, watery eyes. If it's in your blood, fever, crank up the temperature, cook the thing out, just like flush it out of your system. And you can sort of tell where the illness is by the symptoms. If it's in the respiratory system, you're going to be coughing and sneezing and runny nose. If it's in the gut, you're going to have the vomiting and the diarrhea. If it's in the blood, vomiting and diarrhea aren't going to do anything. Neither will sneezing and coughing. You have to crank up the temperature and cook it out. I do want you to know that all of those symptoms, all of what you think of as an illness, is your body's attempts to get rid of it. That is your innate response, your second line of defense, trying to get rid of it, because it recognizes it as an antigen. If it doesn't see it as an antigen, your body won't do these things. The bacteria will just live inside of you, and you won't vomit, you won't cough. Anyways, that's the innate immune response. The third line of defense, and it starts at the same time as the innate. As soon as the barriers are breached, your body starts studying it, and it looks for the things on the pathogen that it has that you don't have. Certain transmembrane proteins, shapes, anything that it has that you don't have, and then it has a whole army that it mounts to fight it. But the two main players are these two right here, B cells and T cells. The B cells make antibodies. Antibodies are bodies that fight. So they make these big flags that stick onto that transmembrane protein that you don't have, but it does, or whatever it is that it has that you don't. So it sticks these flags there, and that tells every part of your army, kill this thing, it's an invader. The T cells, meanwhile, they exploit or take advantage of all of those differences. And it's like, oh, it has this difference. If we see that difference, kill it. And so they're called your killer T cells. And they're really good at destroying invaders. In addition to making the antibodies and the killer Ts, your white blood cells also make memory cells. And this is very important. Your B cells make memory cells, your T cells make memory cells. And the next time you are exposed to that illness, your body says, aha, I know this. I have an antibody that attaches to that. I have killer Ts that know how to kill that. And it mounts it immediately, killing it off before you even know you've been infected. The long and short of it is that you have immunity to that thing that you had once before. You're immune to it forever, and that's awesome. So there's two kinds of immunity. That would be active immunity. You got the illness and you fought it off. Um, that's great. It's with you probably for life. Um, you can have passive immunity, which is where somebody gives you the antibodies. And that's great in that for the time being, you're immune, but those antibodies are foreign to you. Your body will fight them off, and then you don't have them anymore. And so it's a short-lived thing. So an example of that would be breastfeeding. While breastfeeding a baby, the baby is immune to everything the mom's immune to. Vaccines, though, would be active immunity. For a vaccine, they give you a sick or dead version of the illness, and your body studies it and mounts an immune response. Doesn't take a whole lot of killer T's or antibodies to actually kill the thing because it's already dead half the time. But your body does make those memory cells, and the next time you see it, you say, I remember this, and you go into making the antibodies and the killer T's, and you kill it off very quickly. So vaccines are very cool. Some vaccines, we have to give you a very dead or weakened version, a very weakened or dead version. And therefore the memory cells don't build up enough memory cells, they don't last as long, and you need a booster. So like tetanus, you need a booster every 10 years. If you're thinking of something like the flu vaccine or COVID vaccine and wondering why you need those frequently, that's because the thing that causes it, the pathogen, mutates. It morphs, and so you need a vaccine against the new variant. It's not that you have a very weakened form of it, or you have sorry, it's not like you have very few memory cells. It's more that now there's a different version of it. Some things can mutate very quickly. Anyways, a few more things just to talk about. Allergies would be an example of an antigen that is not a pathogen. In other words, something that triggers the immune system, but is not actually going to get you sick. So why should we care about allergies? Because those symptoms are what we think of as an illness, and allergies symptoms can be so bad they can kill you. Like you can flood the area with blood so much that it closes your throat. Also, there's something called an autoimmune disorder. That would be where your body says part of itself is foreign. Like, my toe, that's foreign, attack it. And then you attack and kill off your own toe. Obviously, anything that is foreign to you, even if you want it, like those antibodies, your body will fight off. So an example of that would be like an organ transplant. You need a new liver or a heart or whatever, and we give you a new heart. Well, it's not your heart, and your immune system is going to fight it. Your immune system is going to say, invader, this heart isn't ours, kill it. And meanwhile, you're like, no, don't kill the heart, I need the heart. But your immune system will fight it off. So you need to be on immunosuppressant drugs for the rest of your life to keep your immune system from mounting enough of a response to kill off the heart. How do you keep your immune system healthy? Eat balanced, nutritious foods. Get plenty of sleep. Exercise. Keep balance in everything that you do. And keep your stress levels down. Opposite of all those really weakens your immune system. Not eating healthy food, like eating junk food, staying up late, sitting around all the time, doing anything to the extreme and being really worried or nervous. Those things just suppress your immune system and you're going to be sick all the time. There's more to this unit. We'll talk about them in class. Obviously, this seemed to be focusing mostly on humans, but plants have these immune systems. When you cut a plant, does it not bleed? It does. Sap comes oozing out. So it has a barrier. It has an innate response. There's some evidence they even have a full immune response where they study it and they respond differently to different pathogens. We're still trying to figure out how it does it and why, but there is some evidence that it does. So anyways, I got to keep this short. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.